Hi, I'm Ginny with the University of Maryland Extension. October is a wonderful month to be outside gardening. The sky is blue, there's hardly any humidity, it's just a perfect time. And we're going to take you a tour of Salisbury University's Arboretum. We're going to call in some of the horticulturists that work here, and we're going to take a look at some of their collections. So don't miss it. Join us for Delmarva Gardens coming up next right here on Pack 14. Hi, I want to introduce you to one of the coolest trees in Salisbury. This behind me is an amazing tree, and it was part of the beginning of the Arboretum at Salisbury University. If you've ever driven by Salisbury University, you cannot help but see these marvelous trees because they're so big. So join me. I'm going to go on there, take a real good look, and I'm going to introduce you guys to some of the really cool horticulturists who work at Salisbury University and make this Arboretum perfect. Come on by. This is such a magnificent tree. I mean, what I love about these linden trees is that they've been allowed to grow like a tree without being pruned other than to get out to the deadwood. So for instance, the tree grows up in the air, and then the branches curl down and they brush the ground. Not too many places you'll find that. And what's really cool about that is that when you see the tree from a distance, you see the whole tree. It is so magnificent. I just love it. Anyways, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm a tree hugger. But let me introduce you to some more really good tree huggers. Actually, these are the folks at Salisbury University who are the horticulturists who are helping to take care of the Arboretum. So we have Julie Golightly and Will Lowery. And you guys have been, hi, how are you doing?
Hey, how are you?
Thanks for coming. This is really cool. So you guys have been very active in keeping this Arboretum going. So
Sure.
what do you have to say about this beautiful tree besides that you love it too?
Well, this linden tree, Tilia euchlora, this was planted in 1929.
29?
Yes. So Salisbury University began 1925, and
Okay.
that was one of the earliest efforts to start our tree planting here. And this Tilia, along with several others, were planted here on Holloway Hall's front lawn.
Was there a special event when they were planted? I understand that this had been a cornfield, so they probably had to wait for the harvest. Okay. So was there a special time that they planted it?
Well, that we're not sure. You know.
You mentioned an Arbor Day.
Well, university
Okay.
actually celebrated its first Arbor Day in 1929.
Oh,
as well.
okay, and that's when they had this then, or this was already planted.
Correct. Well, I don't know if they were both the same.
Gotcha.
If these were part of the Arbor Day plantings, or
But they celebrated Arbor Day here.
Sure.
Right.
Yes.
Right. Now you mentioned before that we have a grand champion of this. I mean,
We do.
How much grander could this one be?
Well, if you look, the tree
Oh.
straight back,
Uh-huh.
that is the Maryland State Champion Tilia euchlora.
Wow.
And that was planted the same time all these were. The one back there enjoys its spot a little bit more, so it's grown a lot bigger, and as I said, it's the Maryland State Champion tree for that species.
Wow. Well, I wanted to show you guys a close-up of these things. I love the leaves. The leaves are like little hearts, and not completely perfect, which I think is perfect, because they're a little bit on an angle, and they have these really cool seed pods. So this is an area, and then here's where the flowers used to be, and now there are the seeds. And I just think that it's really cool because when you hold it up like that, they just add some texture and color to it. When they're in bloom, these flowers are so loved by honeybees that you can stand under here and you just hear this quiet buzz, buzz, which I think is really cool. So now you guys have been in charge of putting this Arboretum together, and there's a new distinction to the Arboretum. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yes, we recently received a Level 3 Arboretum accreditation, and it's national and global recognition. So a lot of the efforts over the years, starting with these trees here, have all been, put forth to make the Arboretum what it is.
Right. Now, when you talk about this distinction for the Arboretum, how many other universities have something like this?
Worldwide, 8 other universities.
Worldwide.
Yes.
Worldwide, guys. Salisbury University is one of the first. This is so cool.
It is
so
exciting.
cool.
It is exciting.
And I think that there are a lot of other arboretums that are in the air, in the United States as well as in the world that don't have that accreditation, let alone a school.
Correct.
So,
There are 4 levels.
Okay.
1 through 4 were 3, so it's the second highest.
Wow.
So it was a big accomplishment for us.
That's really cool. That's really cool. So what did you have to do to get that? Because I'm sure you both had to work hard for that.
We did. A lot of the work has was started many years ago with the acquiring of trees in the late 80s. The horticulture department started to actually accession the trees, actually giving them almost like a birth certificate, assigning them a number with a date, and actually keeping records on the trees as far as identification, when they were planted, the source. So we've just been gathering all of that, making sure everything is accurate. We created a strategic plan, collection policies. There were different levels of professional standards that we had to meet, and some of them included extensive educational programming, collaboration with other arboreta throughout the country, even throughout the world, online plant records and database, a minimum of 500 woody species.
Wow.
So that's it in a nutshell.
That's really cool. And that's why we constantly bring Delmarva Gardens to Salisbury University, because there's so many things to see here. Well, I tell you what, you mentioned collections. Why don't we go ahead and start looking at some of the collections that you talk about, because they are awesome. Let's go.
All right.
Wow, this is such a gorgeous tree. So this is part of your collection?
It is. We have about a dozen woody species collections here on campus, trees and shrubs, and the magnolia collection is one of them.
Wow, this has been here a while, hasn't it?
It sure has been.
Will, is this part of the things that you help with?
This is. This tree is a native magnolia called big leaf magnolia.
Really?
Yeah. It's also called cucumber magnolia because the flowers, once the flowers fall off, it looks like a cucumber.
Right.
But this native magnolia has one of the largest leaves of any native tree that we have over here, and it's a really nice tree. Has some nice color and really large seed pods. They are still really tight right now, but when they mature a little bit more, they'll start opening up, and you can see the creases in here and the red seeds. You'll see those. Looks a lot like a southern magnolia with the seed pods and all.
And the birds eat them. The native birds eat them.
Yep.
So that's really good. So this is not only wonderful for us, but wonderful for a lot of birds.
It is. Yeah.
So you have other magnolias here?
We do.
Okay.
We're right now behind Holloway Hall and Fulton Hall, and the whole area around here is part of our main magnolia collection.
Nice.
So a lot of them are out here. We have the spring flowering ones and some of the summer flowering ones also.
That is so cool. That is so cool. Now, on your Arboretum map, do you have the different times when they bloom?
We are working on that.
Okay.
We have that. We have an online map that we've been working on for the last year or so, and we're in the process of putting a lot of our tree information on there, gathering a lot of pictures, a lot of information, so that when you go on there, you can see what the flower will look like, and you can base your purchase on our records for what you want your yard to have.
That's a good idea. And if you decide to plant one of these guys, make sure you've got a lot of room, because this is a big tree with a really big leaf. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at some of the other collections. So join us. Oh man, this is so cool. You know, I know that bald cypress are native to our area, but not everybody realizes there's different varieties of bald cypress, and this guy is a dwarf, isn't she?
Lindsay Skyward, yes.
Lindsay Skyward.
Yes.
Wow.
We have 4 on campus, and they all started growing pretty rapidly, but should stay 10 to 15 feet. So we're hoping that it'll work well for us for a dwarf bald cypress.
That's perfect. Well, you know, a lot of people say, oh, bald cypress have to live in a swampy area. That is really not true. When I remember when I first moved to Salisbury, I noticed that there were these marvelous trees down Route 13 in the middle, in the, I guess, median area, where 13 goes one south and north comes the other side. And they was like right in the center, and they were huge at that time. And then I had to go to College Park, and I was at a conference, and the guy had a picture of it. And he goes, does anybody know what these trees are? And you know, me, I'm like, I know. And I knew what they were. And he goes, how do you know that? I said, I live in Salisbury.
Yes.
But I still think there's a cool. Now the reason why they're called bald cypress, well, I'll let you tell. Why are they called bald cypress?
Bald cypress? Well, if you look at it, it has needles, so it's coniferous, but it's actually a deciduous conifer. So it will lose all of its leaves. In the winter, they will all drop, And you know, what's pretty characteristic of the bald cypress trees are the knees that you find in the swampy areas.
Right, but not in a dry area.
Not in the dry area. Now this area does get a fair amount of moisture from irrigation and just the grade of the soil. But it's happy here. We have 8 different cypress here on campus.
That's cool. That's cool. Now, also, when these guys do start to drop, they turn a beautiful, sort of a rusty golden red color. So they're very, very beautiful before they drop all the needles, which is, I think, is cool. There's a couple things I do want to point out to you guys. When you're working with a lot of trees, you always find pests, because pests find the trees. So that's why you have to keep an eye on it. It's like integrated pest management, basically looking for the pests and saying, okay. And what helps sometimes is to know, okay, this is the bald cypress, what would grow on this? So we have a couple of really cool things. These guys right here, it's a type of gall, and it sort of grows right over the stem. You can see the little needles coming out of that gall. Same thing for here. And this is a gall that really does no damage to the tree. It makes it look a little unsightly, or you can say, oh, it looks like it's decorated for Christmas already. So it just depends on how you look at it. And then if you look a little closer, we have another little friend who was here last summer. And as you can see, he grew quite a lot. You can see that this is called a bagworm. And he actually had some of the bark. He actually pulled some of the bark to hide the bag. Now these guys, when they start out as caterpillars, they're like only a 1/4 inch long. And the way you can find them is that they're moving when nothing else is moving. But here on the Eastern Shore, there's always a breeze. And so that makes it difficult. So you always have to have your eye open and kind of look through the plants. Now this one is actually a male bagworm, and I can tell you why without really doing too much detective work. The male bagworms are always on the lower side of the tree, because they can develop wings and they fly. Whereas a female bagworm, she'll be climbing up to the top of the tree so that when her eggs hatch out, now she doesn't have wings, so she just stays in her boudoir waiting for the gentleman to come by. And then he comes by and they have a wonderful evening together, and then she lays all these eggs, and then when they hatch out the next springtime, if they're up high like that, they can catch the breeze that we always have and blow to other trees, because she knows that if they all stay on this tree is not going to last real long. So that's how nature takes care of things like that. Wow, this is so cool. So should we take a look at some more collection?
Let's go look at some more.
Awesome, thank you.
Sure.
Oh, this is such a cool tree. I love the subtle variegation of the leaves. Instead of being just all green, they're green and green, which is really cool. And this is one of your collection in the...
This is one of our witch hazel. This is our witch hazel collection. We have several different witch hazels right around this area where we are here.
Okay, and where, this is?
This is near Red Square on campus,
near Red Square.
in the New Academic Commons. Yeah. But this tree, it's a variegated form of the witch hazel, and as it grows a little bit more, we just planted this spring, as it grows a little bit more, the variegation is going to come out a little bit more, but you can see the darker green in the middle and the yellowish green on the outside edge.
Isn't that pretty? That is so pretty. And I imagine the autumn color will be interesting too. Now, one thing that I think is really awesome about witch hazels is that they don't bloom in the late spring or the summer. They bloom late fall, winter, and early spring, like February?
February.
Wow. Yeah. And you mentioned some bloom in the fall though too.
Some bloom in the fall. There are pretty much 2 different varieties, the fall blooming ones and the spring blooming ones. And you can get native varieties of each of those plants.
Nice.
But if you look here, you see, so this one will bloom in the spring, and you can see the flower buds starting to form on there.
Oh, that is so cool. Look at that, little teeny flower buds. Just still real tight, but they've been formed and they're ready to disperse into bloom. They have to have that little bit of cold before they can bloom.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. See, there's things to look at on campus no matter what time of the year you're here. You know, trudging through the snow, just take a look. There might be something in bloom.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you have so many different trees. You know, a lot of times people think about, okay, an arboretum, a lot of old trees. But, you know, you always have to go ahead and find a new variety, like this one. And that takes a little bit of research, doesn't it?
Right.
To me, that would be like a Christmas wish list. Okay, what are we going to get? Is it like that to you?
It is. We have a lot of fun going through spring and over the winter time when there's not much going on outside, looking for new varieties that we want to try out. And that's another thing that we like to do. You know, you mentioned the older trees on campus, but we want to bring as much plants and as much trees on campus as we can to showcase the variety of the plant kingdom, and also to show people around this area what they can grow in their own yards.
Yes, and that's the best part, because if they thrive here, they're going to thrive where you live too. You might have to find the right conditions, and that's really important too, because some plants do better in full sun, some plants do better in shade, partial shade or full shade, and you have to do a little bit of research with that too. But that's part of the fun of finding a tree, I think.
Yeah.
Now, I understand that some of the trees have been labeled in the past, but you're relabeling them?
We have. They were labeled with little metal tags.
Right, I
gave
remember
them an
those.
accession number and all that. But we're in the process of changing all those out and trying to get, like with the 21st century, I guess, and we're trying to get tags that have maybe like a QR code on them, where you can get your cell phone and take a picture of that, and it'll bring up all the information of the tree. So if you can't find either me or Julie on campus, you can look at that and you'll know all you need to know about that tree.
That is so cool. Well, I was thinking the old metal tags, what they put them in, they had like a long screw that they could back out a while, because trees are always growing, and if you kept it at the same place, the tree would actually grow around the name tag. Not a good idea. But I love the idea of the QR code. That is so cool. That is so up.
Yeah, we're looking forward to that.
All right, good. Well, join us. We're going to find some more of a collection.
All right.
This is an amazing grove of sycamores. I think sycamores are the coolest trees. They really are. So one thing that's really cool about sycamores is they have what they call exfoliating bark. So I just pulled this off of the tree. So you have sort of a dark green, a lighter green, and then white. And one of the cool things about the sycamore, if you were ever out in the wilds and you couldn't find any water out west, see, not so much on the East Coast, but out west, and you saw a grove of sycamores, or at least one, you'd notice it because the bottom half of it would be white. It's kind of called a ghost tree. It always tells you where the water is. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And the other thing about sycamores is, you know how in the fall, there's some beautiful fall colors? Not so much of the sycamore. It goes from this really beautiful green to this rather attractive soft brown.
Which makes a really nice rustling sound when the wind blows, as we recently heard. So this walk here through the Sycamore Grove is a really popular walk for the students to travel from one location on campus to the next. And I don't know if you can hear any of that right now.
Oh, to me, that's the sound of fall, when you hear the leaves rustling like that.
It is.
Because they don't sound like that in the summertime. They really don't. This is so cool.
And they have really, really cool fruit. The little powder puff balls that hang on the trees throughout the year.
Right.
So,
not like the sweet gum balls that are all spiny. These are very soft and pretty.
Soft,
Yes, very cool. Very cool. And it's a native.
It is.
That's really cool. Lovely. I think we have one more of the collection to see, right?
That's right.
Okay.
Awesome. Good. This is so cool. It looks like a waterfall.
Isn't this a neat one?
Yeah, what is this one called?
Falling Waters.
Well, that makes perfect sense because
Yes.
it looks like a waterfall to me. This is so cool. So this again is a bald cypress.
It is.
Wow, and it's so soft. This one is so soft.
And it's in an area back here by Henson where there's a lot of native plants.
Oh, nice.
And but it's beautiful. I mean, architecturally, it's stunning. We've had to support it.
Yes.
Some with, the cascading effect that it has. But this is, again, one of, we have 8 or 9 different cypress trees on campus.
Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the more unusual ones then,
Okay.
too. So join us for a tour of cypress trees. This is already showing the fall color. This is so pretty. Okay, well, what is this one?
This is also a bald cypress, and this variety is called peave minaret.
A minaret.
It stays really short.
Yeah, but as a minaret, it's kind of like little spikes and stuff like that. So that kind of goes with it.
Yeah.
That is so cool. I cannot believe there's so many different types of bald cypress. You say you've got 2 more to show us?
Yep, we do.
All right. Join us. We're going to go exploring. Okay, I love this green foliage, but look at how that bark is so pretty. That's
really nice exfoliating.
Yeah, again, exfoliating bark is really, it adds a lot of texture as well as interest even in the wintertime. So I really like that. Oh, this is another one. This is the bald cypress tour right now. So this one is called?
This is called Shawnee Brave.
Wow.
It's going to be more like your typical bald cypress, but it's going to stay a little bit more narrow, a little bit shorter, but it still has the same look of the cypress that you see all over.
Right.
So.
And so one of the neat things about showcasing these types of cypress, the original bald cypress, or the native one, I guess we call it the species, it is huge. It gets to be 75 feet high, it gets to be about 30 feet wide, and not everybody has space for something as big as that. But this one, because it's not as tall, not as wide, and yet it still has that gorgeous green foliage right now that'll turn into that beautiful foliage in the fall, and that gorgeous exfoliating bark. I mean, this could go in anybody's property. It doesn't have to be wet either. It can be dry, and it will look absolutely gorgeous. So, cool. And, aha, there's one more to go. So, we're going to play in the trees. You know, when we were taking a walk from one cypress variety to another one, I passed this tree, and I had to stop because I wanted to share something with you guys. This is a type of fungus that is coming out right now. You often see it in the fall, but this fungus actually has been living on the inside of this tree for a number of years, and it's only until recently that it has gotten mature enough that it can go ahead and put out these, what they call conchs. And it's kind of a way of saying, most of the time when you look at a plant that has the disease, you just look for symptoms. Like, for instance, the tree is wilting, or the tree is not doing well, or maybe off color, or turns color earlier in the summer instead of waiting for the autumn. But when you have a tree that has an interfungus, sometimes you don't really notice anything until you see these. So these would be called a sign. This is obviously a sign of the disease. A lot of people have said, well, what if I just broke it off? Well, you could just break it off, but that's not going to change the fact that there's already a lot of damaged wood on the inside. Now, the other thing I want to show you is, since it's so close to the base of the tree, this can become very, very structurally unsound very quickly. So whenever you see this kind of growth at the base of the tree, that's when you need to go ahead and call a licensed arborist who can safely remove this tree, because I'm not even sure if you should be climbing something like this with all of this fungus on the bottom, showing just how unstable this tree has become. This is so cool. I love the way it kind of comes over. It cascades down, but it also kind of branches out too, so it kind of like gives itself, or demands, a little space, which is kind of cool. So, Will, which one is this again?
So this is a bald cypress also. This is called Cascade Falls.
Cascade
and
Falls.
So it cascades down like a waterfall.
It does, it does. This is so gorgeous. Now, I noticed that this is grafted.
It is.
Okay, so it will never really get much taller than this?
It shouldn't. It'll stay like this, but hopefully we'll have it spread out a lot more.
So when you have something that's grafted, it's a little bit more expensive, but on the other hand, you can go ahead and determine how tall it's going to be, maybe even how wide it's going to be, and you can use it as a centerpiece, which is kind of cool. So that's what I think is really good. Well, we have had so much fun walking around, taking a look at the different collections that you guys have here. This is an amazing place, and we have only touched the tip of the of the Arboretum. Yes, yes. So guys, I hope you've enjoyed the tour of Salisbury University's Arboretum, and I'm so glad that you were able to meet both Will and Julie, and thank you for joining us right here on Pack 14.